With a mission to deliver fiscally responsible, highly dependable services to the citizens of our community and the region with integrity and professionalism, this is the City of Albany Commission Meeting with Mayor Bo Duro, Mayor Pro Tem John Howard, Ward 1, Matt Fuller, Ward 2, BJ Fletcher, Ward 3, Chad Warbington, Ward 4, Bob Langstaff Jr., Ward 5, Demetrius Young, Ward 6, City Manager Sharon Subadan, City Clerk Sonia Talbert, and City Attorney Nathan Davis. This is the City of Albany Commission Meeting.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Sir?
I can hear you.
Okay. This is a special call meeting, August 20th, 2020, to consider a resolution to award the solid waste collection service contract for Albany on the west side of Slappy Drive to Concrete Enterprises, Inc., as recommended by city staff. Ms. Kelly, could you call the roll, please?
I can't hear Miss Kelly if she's calling the roll.
I can't hear her either. Unmute, Sissy. She's still muted.
I was trying to do the microphone. Okay. You want me to do the roll call first?
Yes, and then we'll have the reading of the call.
Okay. Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes, here.
Ward 3,
Here.
Ward 4,
Yes, I'm here.
Ward 5, Ward 5,
Here. Here.
Ward 6,
Here.
Mayor.
Mayor is present. And Ms. Kelly, would you now read the call?
Dear Mayor and Commissioners, there will be a special called City Commission virtual meeting on Thursday, August 20, 2020 at 10 a.m. The purpose of the meeting is for the Mayor and Board of Commissioners to discuss and approve the following resolution regarding solid waste collection services. Sincerely, Sharon D. Subadan, City Manager. And it was signed by the Mayor, Ward 1, and Ward 6. And the other commissioners were notified via email.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Ms. Fields, are you going to be speaking to this item?
Yes, sir.
You have the floor.
As presented by Ms. Subadan on Tuesday, this is a consideration of a contract with Concrete Enterprises for a one-year period at the current rate with the balloon payment at the end of that year if we renew. And at that point, it would be renewed for their bid amount of $26.48, something like that, dollars per barrel. So I'm open for questions. Can't hear you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem, any questions for Ms. Field?
Good morning, Ms. Field.
Good morning.
So if we decide to go with Concrete Enterprise, they would keep the current rate up until next year in 2021, right?
Yes, sir. They would keep the current rate through until 2021. And then if we chose to renew, they would get that balloon payment and they would renew at their bid rate.
Okay. Let me ask you a question about the balloon payment of $369,000. Can you go into a little more details about the balloon payment?
Because they are inexperienced, we are giving them a 1-year trial, or we're proposing a 1-year trial. And that in order for it to be a trial, they agreed to go in at what we're currently paying. But because there is a difference of $3 between their bid rate and what the current rate is, they asked, because it's such a substantial investment, to make them whole at the end of that first year once they prove themselves. That's what that balloon payment is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Fuller.
Yes, sir. Or is Mr. Wiggins on the call today?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Wiggins, were you, I know you were going to reach out to your vendors, and were you able to confirm that you would be able to have your equipment and everything ready for October 1st?
All I need is a signed contract today, and yes, sir, it's, I've placed all the stuff on hold. Actually have, some earnest money at stake, if you will. So I'm very confident, if we can get this resolved today, that, there will be no interruption in the service for October 1.
Okay, thank you. That's all from me.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington.
Yes, I got a couple things. Mr. Wiggins, we hadn't talked about trash cans. You're gonna need, I guess, 11,000 something hundred trash cans. Can those be obtained by October 1st?
We ordered 12,000, and they will start delivery September the 10th. With all 12,000 being here and available, of course, by October 1. And we have also hired that same company to place the cans to the addresses for us. Their professional service has been doing this a long, long time, and with the the short time frame that we're working under, we felt like that would be best to ensure that all the cans were out in a timely manner.
Okay, so you have no doubt October 1, there'll be cans at everybody's addresses.
That's correct.
Okay. I guess this question is for Ms. Fields. You were talking about the balloon payment. What is our criteria for renewal at that point? What is that spelled out in the contract?
It's a year-to-year renewal. Well, it's a 5-year contract, but we renew it annually because what we do is change the purchase order every year. So it's still 5 years should you award, but for the second year, we would be giving them that additional money to make them whole.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just when we get to that year mark, is it based on number of complaints? Is it based on days that they may or may not be behind? Like, what is the criteria that we would definitively say it's not renewed? Worst case scenario.
That would be up to this commission and to the city manager to if they haven't performed up to what your standards are, then they won't be renewed.
And if I can
Okay.
jump in, Mayor, is that all right?
It-
He's muted.
Have you answered the question, Ms. Field?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, what we would do, Commissioner Warmington, is start off, I didn't have the benefit of having been at the beginning of the previous contract. What we would do is have a monthly reporting out on this contract based on the terms and conditions and expectations that have been outlined in the contract. The nice thing about this is we will have electronic data, we will have video footage, we will have GPS data to verify and codify the quality of the work that's being done, and also to verify any complaints that we receive. So we will establish right up front a monthly reporting criteria. So at the end of the 12 months, it's not based on a gut feeling or the last 3 complaints that you received. It's based on 12 months of quantifiable data and compiled information that can be verified.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what I was asking for. That's good, great. So with the city commission, do we typically renew these contracts every year, or is this done by staff?
On this one, we'll bring it back.
Okay. But typically staff renews every year.
That is true.
Options to renew are normally done by staff, but because this one has a special clause, it would be my recommendation that this comes back to the commission, and you would be able to, over the course of the 12 months, absorb the information, which we will pass on to you every month.
Okay. All right. My third question, this is probably more for Ms. Subadan, and I certainly respect Mr. Wiggins and verbally what he's indicating. I have no doubt that's going to come to fruition, but what is our plan B, plan C? If something were to happen, the trucks are a week late or something,
Yeah,
technically his contract says he has 90 days to be prepared to go into service. Now he's obviously accelerating that, but what can we do on our end just so that our customer, the 11,000 customers that we report to or that we answer to make sure we've got a plan B and a plan C in place?
Yeah, so when we were discussing that on Tuesday, I knew I wasn't crazy. In our existing contract, it actually requires our vendor to extend for 3 months. And so, and we have put them on notice that in the time frame that we may require that extension. So if we need it, we have already done what's necessary to be able to enact that clause in our contract. It's actually in our existing contract. And that's because there's always an overlap with these types of contracts, and staff way back in 2014 had that experience. So it's built into our existing contract. When we were talking about it on Tuesday, I think we failed to bring that out in the conversation. So if we need it, we have it.
Good. That's good news. So when would we have to exercise that? How many days out?
We've already triggered the 45-day request by making that overture to Transwaste on August 13th. We reached out to them and we requested an extension formally.
Okay.
Just in case we needed it. We haven't obviously pulled the trigger on that because we don't know if we need it, but we have already done the legwork to ensure the contractual requirement is met. And I want to formally recognize procurement, Mike Trotter and Yvette Fields for going ahead and recognizing that.
Okay, good work. That definitely makes us feel a little bit better. I appreciate them doing that. That's all I got, Mayor.
Mr. Langstaff?
No comments.
Commissioner Young?
No, thanks for finding that clause in there. That, as Commissioner Worthington said, that does make everything a whole lot better. And I'm sorry, the gentleman from Concrete Enterprises, have you all had any more talks with your subcontractor? And are they going to be able to kind of help you guys get ready to fulfill the contract by October 1?
Commissioner Young, we have actually have Ulysses James and Don James with A1 Brantley sitting here with me, and we do have a handshake agreement. Obviously, we're waiting on this contract to hopefully get inked and to move forward. But yes, the A1 Brantley, as our subcontractor, is here with us and prepared to move forward like they always have.
Awesome. That's great to know. That's all I have, Mayor.
Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Wiggin.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wiggin,
Yes, sir.
how you doing this morning?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
You did mention that you did have A1 Bradley ownerships in the room with you, right?
That is correct.
If we were to approve this contract for the city manager to continue negotiation, do you know when the agreement between Concrete Enterprise and A1 Bradley will be signed?
I can't give you a definite date on that, but our terms with them have been discussed multiple times. Both sides are in agreement, so it shouldn't take very long at all. It'll be within a reasonable amount of time for sure. And I feel like they're comfortable with that. That's what we discussed. They're both sitting here if they would like to make a comment on that.
Okay. Mr. Ulysses,
Yes,
how you doing this morning?
doing great.
If we sign this contract with Concrete Enterprise, are there anything that you feel that when you all reach a agreement rather than a handshake that you will be satisfied with the outcome of the contract with with Concrete Enterprise?
Yes, at this point, we're still doing some negotiating, but I think it's not so far that we can't work it out in a small time.
Will you repeat that, sir?
I said, at this point, we are in negotiations. We're still talking about it, but I think that we are on the same call. And I think that in a short period of time, we'll be able to ink the whole deal. We're not that far away from the agreement as what we want and what they're offering.
Mr. Wiggin,
Yes, sir.
after we sign this contract with you, would you keep us abreast with the outcome of the contract that you signed with your subcontractor, contractors, Mr. A1 Bradley?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's all I have, Mayor.
Ms. Fields, can you kind of walk me through what would qualify for the one-time payment of $370,000? Is it a satisfactory performance, excellent performance, acceptable performance?
Performance that leads to you renewing their contract?
Okay, that's an objective. So what you're saying is if Concrete Enterprises, if the contract is extended to the second year with the designated increase, then they would be paid the $370,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. That makes me feel better than whether the performance was satisfactory, because in my experience, most residents are not going to be satisfied unless the service is excellent. And but Mr. Wiggins, of course, we kind of see this as a partnership, you understand?
That's exactly what it is.
Yes, sir. And we are obviously concerned to make, if A1 Brantley can continue to work with our contractor, that would be the optimal resolution of this thing. How many homes does A1 Brantley presently serve?
Approximately 4,000. It's a little less. That information came from Ulysses and Don James. It was about 3,900. It was approximately 4,000.
So between 25 and 30% of the whole contract.
That is correct.
Okay, and obviously they have equipment and personnel that would reduce the demands of mobilizing for this contract, which would be a benefit to Concrete Enterprises.
That's correct.
And now it's none of my business on what dollar figure y'all coming to, but if you're gonna perform for the same rate that Transwaste is performing for, I guess the payment to A1 Brantley would fluctuate on what y'all are paid.
That's correct. We're going to mirror very, very, very closely to what the contract that they had with GFL was, and they've been gracious enough to show us that. It's been pleasant to work with these guys with their willingness to show us what they had been doing. So that's we're very, very close.
Okay. But one thing that frankly concerns me, Mr. Wiggins, Mr. James said y'all are close. You said we're very close. It's always better when you there's a saying, memory fades and ink dries, and I realize you can't have a contract with a sub until you get the contract with the city, but I think we need to get to that point, because I would personally think if we could, Mr. City Attorney, I would prefer that we authorize the city manager to execute this agreement, subject to the understanding that Concrete Enterprises would have a agreement with A1 Brantley within 72 hours or 48 hours or something like that. Could you live with that?
Can't do that.
Ma'am?
My understanding is that you cannot do that. That is equivalent to a DBE set aside. However, I think that you can count on me to be an appropriate negotiator for the city.
Is that your understanding, Mr. Davis?
I don't know that it would be a direct set aside. I think it's part of the negotiations, and I would feel comfortable putting that in the resolution if you want it that way.
Okay.
I would. Is that agreeable
you, Mr. Wiggins?
At this point, yes, sir, it is. There's not a problem. I get it, what you're saying, that, you don't have an agreement till you have something inked, but, with time being of the essence, we wouldn't have A1 Brantley here. We're local. We plan on doing the right thing. We want this contract. We've shown that. And there's not a problem on this side. We would not be making a substantial investment on a one-year contract if we weren't planning to do the right thing. So there's no problem here. 72 hours seems like, pretty rushed, especially when I've got to really ramp up to fulfill the obligation for October 1. But we will be very, very timely in getting this inked. And
what would be an acceptable time frame?
Sir?
What would be an acceptable time frame?
I say by the end of business on next Friday.
Okay.
I don't know that I don't have a calendar in front of me. I don't know what that date is, but
I think that's the
28th.
It is.
I think that would be reasonable.
Okay. If that's acceptable, Mr. Wiggins, I think that would be preferable for me personally.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, and to the city manager, I can live with that. And if we, like, when we offer the resolution, let that be amended, that they will have a contract signed by A1 Brantley and Enterprise by next Friday, which would be August 20, 2020.
If you don't mind,
Mayor Pro Tem, we'll go around the table one more time, and then Chair will entertain a motion. Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable.
Commissioner Fuller?
No other questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Mr. Langstaff,
Skip Chad.
Commissioner Warburton. He's asked his limit for the day.
I'm not sitting next to you and you forgot about me.
My only friend.
So Mayor, I see where you're coming from. It certainly gives us a more level of comfort by them having an existing subcontractor. My only concern is I put myself in Mr. Wiggins' shoes. You got to think worst case scenario. I mean, let's just say they can't work. They don't get it worked out. And then he's already ordered equipment. And then our contract is null and void. It almost appears if we want to go that route of ensuring that we have an experienced subcontractor, that we might need to delay the start for a month just to ensure that we're not buying a bunch of equipment, but yet we put a stipulation in there that is going to create problems. And so I'm just thinking worst case scenario. I mean, I hope everything works out. I have every reason to believe it's going to work out. The two companies seem like, I mean, they're sitting together right now, but if something were to happen, it's going to be kind of a big mess. So I just kind of throw that out there as a discussion item that if we really want to ensure that we have an experienced subcontractor connected, then we might need to slow the process down a little bit. That would be my input because again, I'm back to interruption of service. We cannot interrupt service, and we also can't have millions of dollars of equipment committed in a contract that, that's my input is if we wanted to delay it a month to make sure all the I's are D and T's are crossed, I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So.
Can I respond? I certainly wouldn't expect Concrete Enterprises to invest millions of dollars in equipment until they have a contract with the city. That would be some incentive to reach an agreement with A1 Brantley, but I realize what could happen. I don't think A1 Brantley, the Jameses, are going to say, well, you got to have a contract, so we want another $4 a household when Concrete Enterprises, to obtain this contract, to be awarded this contract, has agreed to help the city out. Our customers are not going to see an increase in rates, which is really surprising and probably an increase that's probably warranted. It's certainly warranted. So I just feel a whole lot better about everything because the city manager has notified us that we have the fallback position that Trans Waste has to continue to perform for up to 90 days. So what I would think is that Ms. Subadan get the contract that we get the contract with Concrete Enterprises, and Concrete Enterprises and A1 Brantley exercise their best efforts to get an agreement by next Friday. And if they don't have an agreement, then Concrete Enterprises have not incurred any expense, and we have to revisit the whole situation.
Can I weigh in, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
The next Friday was kind of an arbitrary date. Would it be acceptable to you if in the resolution that if they're not able to reach terms, that I come back to you and advise that before finalizing a contract? I think inserting that creates an artificial hammer kind of over the head of both parties. And I disagree with Nathan. He is the attorney, I am not. But I think you're on a slippery slope. I think you can direct me to negotiate. And I think that I can, and I think you can vote to require me to come back if the negotiations are not successful. And I think you can vote to have me come back by next Friday if the negotiations are not successful. But I think incorporating that into the resolution and making it a requirement of the vendor, I think you're on thin ice legally.
Okay. Commissioner Langstaff?
Yeah, I don't think you can make it a requirement of the vendor. I have slightly different opinion, but I mean, if that's a condition of the resolution, then I'm gonna vote no.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Good news. Commissioner Young?
Yeah, that does kind of give me pause. I think, the city manager needs to negotiate the terms of the contract, and we just need to say whether or not we're going to ratify her or whether the contract positions that she negotiates. That does sound, I guess, a little bit, I don't want to say improper, but it doesn't sound good for us to kind of be making stipulations for two businesses. That's all.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have a comment?
Nathan. By we putting this date in here, August 20, 28, 2020, what's your legal opinion of that?
Well, I think the issue is not the date. It's whether the requirement with A1 Brantley, and as I understand it, the bid document encouraged minority participation, and I interpret the conversations with Mr. Wiggins. He's been negotiating with A1 Brantley, not under any quota system or whatever, just from a business standpoint. That's my review of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Does any member of the commission wish to make a motion?
Well, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Still going around the table, but
I'm sorry, Commissioner Fuller.
No, that's okay.
Excuse me.
I just
We'll go around one more time.
Okay. I was just saying, I don't know about, obviously from a legal standpoint, but putting that in the contract, that seems to me an unfair, I think that could create more mess than it could good. Obviously, I think we're all in favor of A1 Brantley continuing to do that part. But at this point, I would say we know time is of the essence because we want to get this done for October 1st, but hearing the news that we could have 90 days extension, I would either say we leave that out or we wait and vote, which would require Mr. Wiggins waiting to pull the trigger on ordering his equipment. But I would just feel more comfortable having them to have that worked out before we were to put something like that into our vote.
Okay.
Anything else, Commissioner Fuller?
No, that's all.
Mr. Fletcher?
Well, it appears that we're all comfortable with A1 Brantley and we're trying to look after them, and it looks like Concrete Enterprises. Mr. Wiggins is a businessman. I don't see putting anything like that. It's almost like micromanaging him, and I think we need to let them do it, not put anything else into this contract that delays it, and just move forward with it. Thank you.
Commissioner Warrington?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Ms. Subadan, is putting the authority with her to say, hey, I even think of all the names that Mr. Wiggins put in his proposal, the various leaders that he has hired or is going to hire. He's saying this is the direction. Those are competent people. A1 is a very competent, well-respected. We feel comfortable, and so if any of that were to fall apart, Ms. Subadan actually would come back to us if those things don't happen. So yeah, I would not want to put that I wouldn't be in favor of putting that in the resolution. However, I'm sure Ms. Subadan understands our desire to make sure they have an experienced subcontractor that we are very comfortable with at the table before she signs it, ultimately. So that's it.
Commissioner Langstaff,
I agree with Chad. That's it.
Commissioner Young,
I don't have anything to add.
okay. The chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to for the resolution as Ms. Fields described the original contract for us.
Is there a second?
Can I
Second.
interrupt? Can I interrupt, Chad?
Can I get a second first?
No,
Second.
he needs to state it correctly for the record. I offer the resolution and ask for its adoption.
I'm sorry. You're exactly right. I offer the resolution and ask for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, Mayor Pro Tem?
I would like to make a substitute motion to that motion.
Okay,
And that substitute motion would be that within 72 hours, the city manager will have the contract with Concrete Enterprise signed, and then Concrete Enterprise and A1 Bradley should have a contract signed by August 28, 2020.
I'll second the amended motion. Is there any discussion on the amended motion? Ms. Davis? Okay, amended motion takes precedent. We'll call the vote. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
So
Commissioner Fuller?
to make this clear, we're voting on Commissioner Howard's amended.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm a no.
Thank you. Commissioner Fletcher?
I'm a no on the amendment.
Commissioner Warmington?
Yeah, I'm a no on the amendment.
Thank you. Commissioner Langstaff?
No.
Commissioner Young?
No.
Okay, the mayor votes yes. So now we continue the discussion on the original motion. Mayor Pro Tem, I think you have the floor.
Well, since the substitute motion failed, I think that it appeared that the majority is going to vote for the resolution as is. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. On discussion, Commissioner Fuller?
No discussion.
Thank you. Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warmington?
Yeah, nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
I'll only just add that, just giving it more time is the prudent thing to do. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, now we'll call the question. Ms. Kelly, would you roll call vote, please, ma'am?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. The resolution is passed unanimously. Do you open the floor up for other business, a special call meeting, Ms. Davis, or is it restricted to the call?
Well, did we put in the notice of possibility of any other business?
No, it's not in here. Okay. So with that, that would conclude all the business before the commission this morning. Thank you for your participation. Mr. Wiggins, Mr. James, thank y'all. We look forward to working with y'all in the next few years.
We appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Okay. With that, this meeting is adjourned.